Happy New Year! Happy 2025. Hi, everyone. So happy that you're here, either live or watching the replay. Couple of things. We are going to talk about your goals, your vision for 2025. And while I wait here, see, okay. Just want to make sure. Let's see, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. Awesome. So, just a little bit about me. If you don't know me, my name is Alexandra. I started the Catholic Singles uh, page because I'm passionate about helping Catholic singles to date intentionally toward marriage. Of course, within the Catholic Church, there are three vocations. One is you're called to marriage, one is you're called to religious life, so either a priest or a sister or nun, or consecrated single. But most people are called to marriage. And so with this new age, it's digital age, so many things that are affecting people's ability to connect and also to pursue, right? And so I want to make sure that people are able to, get the tools that they need, the resources that they need to help them, both practical things and also like emotional and psychological things that we can do. And I'm not a therapist, but as a life coach, certified life coach, and a certified happiness trainer, also have a master's in communication, I'm hoping that my take can help people as well. I also started a Catholic singles ministry in my city. We have about a few hundred people that are part of the community. And I'm developing a Catholic couples ministry, pre-engaged couples ministry. So all the things that we need to work through. Oh, let me do my volume. All the things we need to work through to ensure that we have a successful sacramental marriage. So, with that, let me go ahead. If you know me, I like to just get in. I like to have lots of content and just get right into it. So, this is what we're going to talk about today. Oh, and if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you do. I share lots of tips, tools, resources to help you to date intentionally toward sacramental marriage. That also includes things like discernment and tips and tools to help see if you're in a toxic relationship. And if you haven't, please like this video, help to get into the algorithm. All right. So we're talking about 2025. We're starting 2025 with clarity and intention so that we can have a fulfilling year. We're going to mostly focus on relationship because that's what most of us in the Catholic singles community want. But also we're going to dive into, we're going to talk about some personal growth tips that can help you both personally and actually anything that helps you personally can help you in relationship. Okay. And we're going to talk about really great tips and tools. So stay tuned until the end. And since this is a fresh start, right? New year, new you, fresh start. It's a perfect time to refocus on what really matters, whether it's building a stronger relationship, getting into a relationship, building a stronger you, or pursuing your personal goals with purpose. This is a perfect time to reset and refocus on what you desire and what's God's will for your life in 2025, right? So, the first thing we're going to do is to reflect on the past year. So, as a communication strategist, I actually work a lot with business owners. And a lot of things that I do at the beginning of the year is I encourage them to reflect back on the last year and see what worked and what didn't work in their business, right? What communication strategies and tools did or didn't work. So, with you in a relationship as well, whether you're in a relationship with your dating or you're not, I want you to evaluate 2024. What went well in your relationships? What went well in your dating life? Take a moment to reflect on that. What did you do in your personal growth? Did you do anything that really helped to build you personally, that really aided in your personal growth? On the other hand, what challenges or patterns can you see now that you wish to change, that you want to leave in 2024 and move forward in doing something differently in 2025? So if you have a journal, this is a good time, and I'm actually using my journal as a prop for right now for my computer. But I'm gonna go ahead and write as well on another little thing I have here. And if you journal, of course, you could talk to a mentor, you could talk to a coach, you could talk to a spiritual guide, a priest can help you clarify. But journaling really helps. So I'm going to have a couple of questions throughout today, and that can help prompt you. Okay. So, what worked? What didn't work? What do you want to change? And what do you want to bring in to 2025? Right. So, as you reflect, I want you to write down at least one thing that you did that was really good, that went really well, at least as far as in your dating life. Now, I want you to think of one habit or mindset or pattern that held you back. And how can you replace it with something more positive? Right? What do you want to leave behind in 2024 and bring in new in 2025? Just going to take like a minute, and you can take a minute to think about that. So we're writing down the things that, like a habit or mindset, a pattern, something that we'd like to change in 2025. Especially if you can think of it, I mean, it could be personal, but if you could think of it as far as in relationship, dating, that can really help you. Maybe like this tweak is the tweak that you need to either attract your future spouse or have a good relationship with somebody that you, or build a better relationship with somebody that you are dating, that you really, really care about. All right. So that was number one. And you can always pause this and come back to it or come back to it. So that was one. Reflect on the past year. Tip number two is something you might have heard of. As a coach, I learned about this a long time ago. And I don't exactly like super endorse this, but it's still relevant. Okay. It's to set SMART goals for your personal life, for that includes your relationship or maybe a big goal that you have for 2025. So, SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And I always like to give people, my clients, stretch goals, right? Things that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, but I like to stretch them a little bit. And so you can apply this both to your relationships or future relationship and your life goals. So is there something like a really big goal that you want, that you have for this year? And then what is your relationship goal, right? So for some of you, it may be to, to be engaged by the end of the year. That is a specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound goal. And the reason that we say time bound is so that you can work toward it, right? If there's no time associated with it, then like your goal could be forever, right? And for those of us who want to start families, there is definitely a time boundness necessary for marriage and starting a family, right? So this is really important. If it's something else, like maybe you want to get a new job or you want to start a new business or you want to have a certain goal within that, You try to make it, time bound and specific. I think are usually the most important. Now, the goal of being engaged might not be relevant. That's one of the letters in the acronym. It might not be relevant if you're 18 years old, right? Because maybe you're going to college. And so, that's just not necessarily feasible for somebody in a certain, if you're in a different, living in a different country. I mean, I don't, there's a lot of different factors. That was just using that as an example. But if you're in a relationship, that's definitely feasible. If anything, maybe if you're in a relationship, maybe you want that in 6 months, not by the end of the year. Maybe you want that by June 30th, right? Because if you're not going to be engaged to the person you're dating, then you want to know if this is the person that you're going to live your life with, right? And if you both don't agree that that it's marriage bound, then you can end that relationship with love and peace and move on so that you can attract the person that you want to marry or that you will marry, right? So, what's really important with goals is that yes, we set these SMART goals, but then we also start small and we celebrate the progress along the way. So, when I help my clients set their goals, I also then help them along the way with accountability. And the accountability piece that's important is setting little tiny steps along the way, little tiny goals along the way. So think about your either whatever you thought of your relationship goal or your big goal that you had, if you had another goal besides relationship, and like break that down into smaller goals. So as an example, for relationships, right? Like if you do want to get engaged by the end of the year or in 6 months, maybe it's going on at least one date per week. For now. Maybe it's going to at least one Catholic social per week so that you can get out there and meet new people. Maybe it's starting a new hobby that you love, that they're just like very sociable and you're going to meet a lot of people that could be potential prospects, right? If it's for personal growth, maybe it's something like working out 3 times per week. Or maybe you want to get to a certain point, like lose a certain amount of weight. And then to get there, you've got to start working out 3 times per week, as an example, right? So for each of the goals that you wrote down, what is one step that you can take this week to start in that? So I'm going to take just a minute, and you can pause this also if you'd like. And if you have multiple goals, then you can write the step that you're going to take for each of those goals. Just take another few seconds here. All right, so that was number 2, is set SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. And then think of a small step that you could take this week to just kind of get started, right? To build that momentum. And here's, what I forgot to say this. I've been coaching for a long time. And one thing that a lot of people want to do is they want to come out the gates and they set these huge goals for themselves and they start big, right? So, as an example, exercise is a great example. A lot of times people set these resolutions and they start working out 5 times per week. But a lot of times that resolution ends because that's not sustainable. Because if you don't work out, or if you've been working out once or twice a week, going from once or twice a week to or 0 to 5, it's just not sustainable. You have to work your way up. So maybe the step that you take this week is working out one time. And then next week it's 2 times. And then maybe you keep that cadence, that consistency for a few weeks until then you can work out 3 times, right? So I instead of going out guns blazing, right? Like sometimes you do need to push yourself, right, at the beginning to get that momentum, but do it in a way that's sustainable. So that would be my suggestion. All right. So tip number 3 is to build healthy boundaries. So boundaries are really essential for your own personal growth and to make sure that you're in healthy, balanced relationships. So in this channel, we talk mostly about romantic relationships, right? Dating for the intention of eventually getting married. However, the way you are in one relationship is usually, or in any relationship, is the way you are in all relationships, typically. So if you have really bad boundaries, and I'll take this from personal experience and from working with clients, if you have really bad boundaries in your romantic relationships, you probably have really bad boundaries with your work colleagues, with your family, and maybe even with your friends. And so if you start to notice that there's overlaps in the way that you act in certain things, that you do the same kind of take the same type of behaviors in all areas of your life, then maybe that's a step for you to have grow an awareness and start to work through that. So a few examples of typical boundaries that, especially this is a big one for women, saying no to things that people throw on you, saying no to obligations that drain you, right? Saying no, one of the big things that I know some people are doing is they're not just dating everyone. They're saying no to dates that they don't feel that they're in alignment with, that they know right off the bat is not going to lead them, is not whether either the person's not godly, or there's something that there's like a huge character flaw, right? So instead of entertaining and just going out at the whim of the other person, they know up front, they have discernment, and they say no. They say no to what they know that they don't want, and that is going to help you have higher standards and attract what you do want. And so when you do see the person, if you're saying yes to everyone, then you're basically saying, you're not saying yes to anyone. If you say no to the people that you don't want to date, it's going to help you get clear and clear and clear so that you can say yes to the person that you want to date. Small caveat to this though. If you always say no to everyone, or you have very little dating experience, then I think that a step for you would just be to maybe just go to coffee with the person who's asking you out, if somebody's asking you out. Or if you're the person, if you're the man, then maybe you ask them to coffee. So it's a low risk, low, low energy, low time commitment. And it helps you to meet a lot of people to see what you do want. Because if you don't have any experience, then I don't think you should off the bat be saying no to everyone, unless, or to that many people, unless you know for sure that you do not want to date that person, right? Like there's a huge major character flaw. As an example, as a Catholic, we obviously don't want to be dating atheists, right? So if somebody who is an atheist, a blatant atheist is asking you out, then that is a huge contradiction in your faith, right? And sorry guys, I'm having lighting issues today. That's a huge contradiction in alignment with yourself. And yes, you can decide, no, I don't want to date them. But if otherwise the person is godly, Catholic, or Christian, and otherwise seems like they could be potential, but maybe you're not super attracted to them, give them a chance, right? Especially if you don't have a lot of dating experience. All right. So, another thing boundaries wise is communication. Communicate in a loving way, in a compassionate way, with in any relationship, not just your romantic relationship, but you want to get really good at communicating your needs, especially if you see yourself getting upset or angry at somebody for something that they're doing. Then it's possibly and probably a communication issue, right? You don't know what they're thinking. They don't know what you're thinking. And so if they're doing something that you don't necessarily like, is it really something bad that they're doing, something rude? Or is it a communication issue? Like, do you need to set some expectations? You need to communicate your needs. You need to communicate what you want and what you like and what you don't like in a loving way. Do that before writing the person off. Do that before getting upset with the person, right? So when you honor your boundaries, you create the space for the relationships and goals that truly matter to you. Again, when you say no to what you don't want, both for relationships and in other things in your life, right? If people are piling things on you that are taking you away from the things you really want to do, then you're basically saying no to the goals that you want. So, as a good example, if you're dating people that you don't really like that much, then maybe, you're not going to see the person who is the right person for you. So, the question for this tip is, what's one new boundary that you'd like to place in your life? And this might go back to the number one where we talked about a pattern or a habit. Maybe it's there. And if that's the same one, that's great. But if you had already talked about boundaries in the first step, then try to think of something else, because there's definitely more boundaries, right? Maybe it's when your family member maybe a family member guilts you into doing something. Or maybe you need to place some boundaries at work. Like if you work too much, right? Maybe that's taking you away from dating, from having like the energy and the space and the time to date, right? Maybe you need to place boundaries on your work, right? And if you think, oh, it's my boss is always doing that, you get to set the boundaries that you want for work. If that's not working for you, you can have a conversation with your boss, or whoever is giving you that work, right? You can set those boundaries. And maybe if this is using this as an example, but I know it's super relevant because lots of people work too much. If that's the case, maybe you decide, back to tip number 2, to set a goal to get a new job that values you and doesn't overwork you, right? So, what's one new boundary you'd like to place in your life that will help you? And let's go with either one of the two goals that you mentioned in the last tip. So, either for your relationship, or there was another big goal that you had in your life. What's one new boundary that you can start to place? Okay, give you a few more seconds. And if you've written that first one, then write a second one. Another few seconds here. All right. So, tip number 4 is to nurture your key relationships. So, we do not live in a vacuum. We do not live as hermits, right? So, to get a relationship, we want to nurture other relationships. And to get to our goal, if you had another goal besides a relationship, that is done in communion with other people, right? So we want to prioritize meaningful connections over lots of connections, right? Like let's focus on deeper connections. And so some ideas for nurturing relationships is to schedule intentional time with your loved ones. That could be family, friends, coworkers. Express your gratitude and appreciation regularly, right? We don't do this enough, but a little gratitude goes a long way. It helps people be loyal to you. If you're a boss, if you're a coworker, showing your appreciation is what keeps people usually in jobs, not salary. It's usually if somebody is loyal to you, they'll stay, right? Same goes with a relationship. If somebody is loyal to you, they're going to stick it out and they're going to work through things with you. Another thing you could do is listen actively and show empathy in conversations, right? Be more vulnerable. I'm feeling this a lot because I used to feel like being vulnerable, not that it was a weakness because I could do it, but it felt dangerous. And so I challenge you to turn your superficial relationships, turn to superficial conversations into deeper, more vulnerable relationships. As an example, I went to a networking event last night, and there were so many people there that I ended up practically saying hi, 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 and having these superficial conversations with almost everyone. And it's cool to see people, but that's not building intimacy. That's not building deep connection. What builds that is going deeper with somebody. So maybe instead of saying hi to like dozens of people, I could have focused on having some deeper conversations with two or three people, key people that I wanted to build relationship with, right? So focus on cultivating these healthy connections, healthy friendships, and meeting people aligned with your values. And what's great about that is that maybe one of those people could become somebody you date, right? One of those people could become a future spouse. Or one of those people could introduce you to your future spouse, right? I was just talking to a friend earlier, and she was telling me that she met her husband. She was set up on a date. Like they went on this dinner, this like it wasn't a date, but a few people went out to dinner, and it was her friend who set them up. And so, your friends could be uh, helping you meet your future spouse, right? So, and a lot of that is again is getting deeper, more vulnerable with people, maybe sharing your concerns about being single and asking people to set you up, right? If they know somebody who could be a good fit for you. So the example for this one and what I want you to think about is, who is one person in your life, either a friend, family, or colleague, who you would like to have a deeper connection with? And maybe it's not just one, maybe it's two or three, but think of at least one person that you'd like to have a deeper connection with. Now, you know what I'm going to say? Take a small step, right? Invite them to coffee, invite them to go out to meet up over the next week. If they don't live in your area, call them up and have a conversation with them and focus on deep connection, focus on vulnerability. Try not to stay surface. And the same thing, if the person that you're thinking about is somebody that you'd like to date, same goes for that person. Steer away from the superficial conversation you should be having in like the first week, maybe. After that, go into the really deep stuff, your values, what you care about, right? Family, um, experiences, the vision for your life. Get into deeper things because that's how you build intimacy. And that's how you know if the person is somebody that you want to be with, right? Potentially to date or for the rest of your life, right? So practice, if you don't have somebody specific that you have in mind, Practice building those deeper connections and intimacy with your friends, family, or colleagues. And that can help you to feel more comfortable building that intimacy with somebody that you're dating, right? Don't look at vulnerability as a weakness. Don't think it's dangerous. Don't share too much too fast either, right? God, the Bible does tell us to guard our hearts, but it needs to happen over time. So, like I said, that first week, yeah, that could be superficial, and then you could start opening up a little bit thereafter. Don't open up too much because that could be potentially an issue. But definitely open up, be open to being more, but be brave in being more vulnerable, right? All right. So the next thing, the last tip here is to focus on a balanced life. So here's what's really cool. Balanced individuals lead the most fulfilling lives and are most attractive. So there was a book that I read with my singles ministry called Pretty Good Catholic. And in it, it talked about, she did some research, she did some polls with people in her singles ministry, the author. And she found that a lot of Catholics are boring or think that other Catholics are boring because a lot of them just talk about Catholicism and religion. And it just gets so one dimensional. There isn't any depth. Certainly, you can have really deep conversations about theology and spirituality, but make sure that that's not the only thing you can talk about. So, what makes you more attractive is if you have other things to talk about, if you have other interests and hobbies and skills that you can talk about. So, what we encourage you to do is to invest in yourself, in building and growing yourself in 5 key, there might be more than this, but these key areas, and look where you're deficient, okay? So in the first area, spirituality, right? Oh, yes, I forgot the one here. Let me add to my, there's 6 things. Spirituality, theology, faith, right? Of course, you want to deepen your spiritual practices. If you just, like your baseline is just going to church every Sunday, maybe you can go to adoration. Start going to adoration or praying the rosary every day or even once a week, right? Start building and deepening your spiritual practices. Maybe read some books about spirituality or theology. But if you find that you're only talking about that and you're only connecting with people on that, that might be a good way, a good baseline, right? Of course, we want to be with somebody who's in their same faith. But if that's a good baseline, but make sure that there's more to that, right? Because do you want to, let's say you're married to somebody 30, 40 years down the road, and the only thing you talk about or you can talk about is religion, right? You want to have a more balanced relationship. It doesn't all have to be about religion. It doesn't all have to be about faith, spirituality, theology, right? So if you're already super on point with spirituality, that's awesome, right? Then you want to focus on some of the other areas you might be deficient. So let's talk about hobbies. Maybe it's time for you to learn a new skill or get a new hobby that you've always wanted to try, right? This could also include things like maybe some sporty physical activities that you want to engage in. Look at your young adult group or your Catholic ministries in your area and see if there's any activities that you can attend. And what I would recommend that you do is get out of your comfort zone. These are things that are going to help you get out of your comfort zone and find new social circles. Even it's like there was a group in my community that had a fencing activity the other day. And I thought that was amazing because it got people out of their comfort zone. I organized an ice skating activity. I live in a warm climate. We do not have ice skating year round, right? Or we don't have any outdoor ice skating. So that was so cool. And it got a lot of people doing something different that they don't normally do. And it was social and it was fun and it was a workout, right? So try getting yourself out there and trying new hobbies that are fun for you and that also maybe can make you, meet new people. Talking about hobbies you're passionate about also makes you more attractive. Even if it's something like, let's say, super geeky or super dorky, you want your future spouse to love that about you, or maybe love you in spite of it, right? So it's okay to have like super geeky or weird hobbies. It's better to talk about that up front to know if the other person is compatible or not with you, right? Okay, the next area is intellectual. So this is really good. Like maybe you need to start reading a little bit more. Like if you're super intellectual and you're always reading the news and you're always having these super high level intellectual conversations, then that's not you. You're high at that. You got to work on the other areas of your life. But if you're not, then this is a time for you to maybe start reading a book every month on something new, something cultural, something engaging. Educate yourself more in other areas, in things that that you find important for you, right? So that's another way to be more interesting and balanced when you're meeting people. Social. So if you are an introvert, then it is time to get out of your comfort zone and start trying new activities. Get out of your house, broaden your activities and social circles. Now, what I love, and I'll get to this in a moment, but if there's a way to combine groups, actually, let me wait this. There's a way to combine things, and I'll share more in a moment. So find different ways to get out there. But if you're only hanging out with people in the Catholic Church and doing only activities with people in the Catholic Church, you might be limiting yourself, right? Maybe it's time to go out and do game nights or do other social activities or other things that are fun, that get you out. Maybe doing a speed dating event, right? Things that are going to help you get to meet new people. And so things that are going to get you out there and meeting new people. The fifth category is physical. How are you? Usually, people who are super intellectual are usually not so focused on the physical, right? And that's just maybe not usually, but a lot of times from my personal experience, that's what I see. So maybe if you're, working a lot on the mind, but you're not necessarily spending a lot of time on your physical, maybe that's where your deficiency is. Maybe it's time for you to start exercising more, working out more, getting out there more, right? And so if you're a little overweight and you find yourself tired or sluggish, this is a great time to start a new workout routine. But back to, I think it was tip number 2, right? If you're don't go 0 to 60. Don't start working out 5 times per week. Maybe it's just starting with one or two workouts per week. And what I was going to say is what's really cool is if you can combine different categories. So like there was the hobby, the social, and the physical category. So like the ice skating activity that I organized was all of those things, right? And it was with Catholic. So then it also included the spirituality, and people talked about intellectual things too. So we got to physically move and work out. We got to socialize and be together in communion. And we got to do something interesting and fun. I love skating, and I'd like to do it more. We're actually going to do more skating activities. So if you can combine things, we did a rosary walk a few months ago. So that allowed us to be physical while also combining the rosary. And that was really, really cool. And we was outdoors. So it was just really, really beautiful. Very, very nice. The sixth area is emotional psychological. So this is when you look at yourself and you really have that awareness of like, I've got trauma, I've got wounds, I need therapy, or maybe I need self-care. Maybe I need to set those boundaries on my time and my energy and focus on myself in areas where I need improvement in the emotional, psychological area. Mental health falls in this as well. And I am a huge proponent of therapy if you need it. I think everyone should do therapy at some point because I think we all need it because we are human. But it could be talking to a spiritual guide. Could be talking to a priest. It could be talking to a coach. It could be, other tools that work for you to help you heal or work through past. Maybe it's working through past relationships, right? Because if you're good in all the other five areas, but you still find yourself single or attracting toxic relationships, then that might be the area that you need to focus on. Maybe therapy is the right fit for you, and talking to a third party, a licensed therapist that knows what they're doing, that focuses and can help you, could be the key to helping you push through. And maybe that's what you need to help, to help you attract, to feel more secure and whole, so that you can attract a godly spouse, or at least a godly person to be in a relationship with, right? So of those six things that I mentioned, I'll say them again. Which area are you most deficient? Maybe it's one or two, but think about the one thing that you're most deficient. So spirituality, hobbies, intellectual, social, physical, and emotional, psychological. Which of those do you think that you are the most deficient at the moment? Yeah. Now, what is one thing that you can do over the next month in that area? I could say the next week, but let's be realistic. What's one thing that you can do? So if it's intellectual, maybe it's reading a book over the next month. If it's physical, maybe it's starting a new workout routine. If it's emotional, maybe it's getting a therapist or finding a therapist over the next month. If it's spiritual, maybe it's committing to going to adoration once a week. If it's a hobby, maybe it's searching in your area and seeing if there's, that hobby that you've been always wanting to do, that activity. Maybe it's finding where they have it and actually going. If it's social, maybe it's organizing an activity in your church, or it could be finding a new group, a new social group to meet. And I should have said this first, but what is the area that you feel like you're most like succeeding in? And let's celebrate that, right? So let's celebrate our wins, and then let's also work through the areas that we need to work through. I'll just give you another 30 seconds here to finish that up. Okay. So just to recap, new year, new you. Reflect on the past year. What worked? What didn't work? What do you want to leave behind in 2024? What do you want to bring into 2025? Right? Set smart goals for yourself, both for a relationship and if there's another big goal, big area in your life that you want to work through, right? And if you can find at least one step that you can take in that goal over the next week, let's build some momentum and move forward with that big goal that you have in your life. Tip number 3 is build healthy boundaries. So what are some areas, what is a boundary that you need to place so that you can grow both personally and also in attracting the type of godly relationship that could eventually become a godly marriage? Number 4, nurturing key relationships. Who is one person or maybe a couple people that you want to build deeper relationship with, and practice building intimacy with that person, so that when you either in your dating relationship, or when you do meet somebody that you think could be, a potential spouse, that you start to build that quality time, build that intimacy and vulnerability with that person. And number five, focus on a balanced life. Don't be so one dimensional. The more balanced you are in more areas, the more fulfilled you're going to be, and also the more attractive you're going to be. So, whether it's building your spiritual life, your hobbies, your intellectual life, your social life, your physical health, or your emotional and psychological mental health, focus on building one area where you're more deficient over the next month, and really focus, prioritize that, so that you can move forward. And maybe that can help you, open up to a new circle of people, or a new passion in your life, or maybe release something that you don't need in your life anymore. Whatever it is, it's going to help you to build momentum and move forward. So, I hope that this was helpful. I think 2025 can be your year of transformation. It can be your year of purpose. It can be the year where you finally either meet your future spouse, and get engaged, or if you're in a relationship, get engaged. Maybe if you're in a relationship, it's the year you get married, right? Because in Catholicism, right, like there's a 6-month window, right? If you get engaged this year, you might get married this year. You don't know, right? If that's your goal, make sure you put that in your goal. Make sure you have that as your you have that as your goal for this year. And if you're in a relationship and it doesn't work out, well, you know what? Better to end that sooner if you know that it's toxic, or if it's not the right one, so that you can, again, going back to boundaries, say no to what you don't want, so that you can attract and bring into your life what you do want, right? Same with any relationship that you in, any dating relationship that you're in. The sooner you know that that person is not the one, and you can move on with love and compassion, so that you can attract the person that is going to be your future spouse. So, thank you so much for being here. I just wanted to share before I ended that as a coach, I do have a New Year special for anyone who wishes to just get closer and closer to meeting their person. And I'm going to go ahead and type that into the chat. So, this New Year's special is a way to get clear about setting your goals, your vision for 2025 for your relationship. So, if you're dating somebody, or if you're fully single and you want to get, to have a godly relationship that leads to sacramental marriage, I'm offering these 2 strategy sessions where we're going to get deeper in understanding, creating the vision that you have for your relationship, understanding what challenges or what is getting in the way of you either attracting attracting a godly relationship, or what's keeping you from getting married. And also just generally learning tips and tools that are going to help you feel more energized, more inspired, and motivated to get out there and attract the godly spouse and marriage that you want. And with that, I will thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do, so that you can get more tips, tools, strategies to help you to date more intentionally toward holy matrimony. And also, if you haven't liked this video, I'd appreciate if you do now, so that you can help us get into the algorithm and get this seen by more people. We're just starting this channel and we're growing, so we really appreciate the support. With that, I appreciate you all, and have a fabulous rest of your night. If you can, type in the chat or the comment, what was your biggest takeaway? And that way we can help each other learn and grow. All right, everyone. Have a blessed rest of your day. Bye now.